Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm just too used to saying that for my open mics, either at the cafe or at the Gallery Cabaret for the Cafe Gallery. I hope everyone had a very happy Christmas and celebrated New Year in a very cool and proper and fun way. I thought I would read for you for the first Tuesday of the year for the Cafe Gallery book reading series a couple of poems. Let's see what we can come up with here. I think I will start with two from the brand new CC&D book release from January 2021 that is titled You Won't See Me. You Won't See Me. Their titles of books are named after accepted writings within the issues. And so I was going to read two poems from this for you. Short ones, both under a page. One is almost haiku length, and it is accompanied by an Instagram image because when they're tiny and I could find room for it, I would try to get it for both cameras. No, I don't know if that'll work, but there you go. But I'll try to have images for you as well. This is a piece that's called Keep Repeating. I question my turning the other cheek when your violence strikes just gets stronger, and this painful history keeps repeating. Appropriate image in there. Appropriate image in there for that piece. The other one, which also has an image, which is much tinier in the book, but that's because the poem is a little bit longer. This is a poem that is called Language. Language is one of the first things we learn to communicate what we need to survive. You may have heard that language is a virus, but I beg to differ. It's too ingrained in us to be the enemy, to be the one downfall, to make us something we have to fight to survive. So, no, I say language actually leaves a residue, a film that, since childhood, sticks to you. You can't escape the words thrown at you, the words you hear, the words you read. And some of those words may be like a virus, infecting you through words and invading your brain. But some words in our language can touch you like a feather to gently tickle and entice you. And that language of yours can pour over you like warm honey you could spend hours licking. Remember, language pours over you like warm, like water, like at your birth, when you heard your first words. Language has touched you since the beginning until the end, and that language always sticks. Two short pieces from CC&D magazine, the January 2021 issue, which is volume 305. There have been more than 305 issues. There'd be like 0.2, 0.5, 0.7, or 2, 4, 6, 8, and within there have been like a lot of issues. But this is volume 305, and it's called You Won't See Me from CC&D magazine. And if you want to check it out, you can go to scars.tv/ccd. Or if you would like to know material about the other magazine, Down in the Dirt magazine, it used to be a supplement section of CCD back in '94. What? And so we did it off on its own. And right now it's on volume 179, and this is called A Stretch of Highway. And it's actually a stretch of highway in Puerto Rico, actually. That's on this cover. And I thought I would share with you two poems in the back from this book for you. This first one, is another short one that has another image. Checking out the images. Oh, yeah. This is a piece that is called Plot and Wait. They enlisted me as a sniper for years. On the firing tests, I would score perfect or near perfect every single time. I worked as a sniper for years, and in all my time, they never asked me to shoot anyone. All I did was plot and wait. That one is plot and wait, a short piece in the back, and I oftentimes when I am doing this will be wearing a Chicago themed shirt. But today I thought I'd wear a different shirt that would relate to the last poem that I'm going to read to you, which is the last poem that is in this book. And it is titled, Waiting to Take the Plunge. Living in Chicago, I had heard of the polar plunge, an insane idea to jump into Lake Michigan at around Christmas or New Year's when there was a ton of ice floating. And you might end up floating too if you don't get out of that water, that ice-cold water. That polar plunge, that polar bear plunge, well, it had existed in centuries in nature. I'm gonna start that one over again. And because John has this, and because of another open mic host, I'm gonna see how these glasses look on me while you figure this out. Now I'm gonna start that one from scratch. It's called Waiting to Take the Plunge. Living in Chicago, I had heard of the polar plunge, an insane idea to jump into Lake Michigan at around Christmas or New Year's, where there's a ton of ice floating, and you might end up floating too if you don't get out of that ice-cold water. This polar bear plunge had existed for a century in many countries globally, some for charity, but I thought, how silly. I'm sure a lot of these people just want to show off their manhood doing this, so I always refrained, even when the new Chicago mayor, Rahm Emanuel, did it. I chose to avoid this ritual. I can take it cold, but I really can't comprehend why these people are what they're trying to actually prove. So I acted passive and aloof, like I was above such childish behavior. But one thing happened that made me change my mind. I happened to be visiting a continent I thought I'd never visit to photograph icebergs, glaciers, and wildlife I've never seen in Antarctica. And that's when they suggested to me that I could do the polar plunge there into the Southern Ocean. And oddly enough, I had a swimsuit on this trip, even though the temperature was only minus 2.8 degrees Celsius or 27 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I want to tell you that this trip was amazing, taking small rubber boats to one island after another. First we crossed the choppy Drake Passage, then we went to Half Moon Island, passing icebergs to see penguins in their natural habitat. And yeah, that is cool. But what about my polar plunge? I wanted to jump into the Southern Ocean. Oh, stop your complaining. You'll have to wait. So we went off to Cooverville Island. You see, here you could see both Chimstrap and Gentoo penguins. And I thought, well, yeah, sure, that's double plus cool. So I took pictures with my waterproof camera and waited. After leaving there, I thought, okay, what about my polar plunge? And they said, hey, let's first check out the Weddell seals at Enterprise Island. So I thought, sure, I can do that. And the ice structures here are amazing. Each island has different icebergs and glaciers because of the winds and the global water passages. But at this point, I really thought I'd waited long enough for my polar plunge. And that's when they decided to take us to mainland Antarctica, which really is a penultimate reason for going, no. So, while waiting there, I went camping one night, which was freezingly miserable. But if you'll be docking at Paradise Harbor to mainland Antarctica, you think at least you could do is actually sleep on Antarctica, even if your sleeping bag is too small for you and you shiver for warmth all night. And then an avalanche even falls only 150 yards away at 2:20 in the morning, dumping more ice into the ocean. But not quite enough ice to block your escape. Once I warm up, I think, well, isn't it time for my polar plunge? And so that's when the captain of our ship angled our boat toward the first humpback whales seen of the season. All right, this is great that these people keep trying to show me one cool thing after another to distract me from what my truly near once one of the poles polar plunge. And then they say, hey, let's go to Danco Harbor first, where they got all these Gentoo penguins and they're all jumping into the ocean. And I think, wait a minute, I should be jumping into that ocean too. But fine, okay, we'll dock at Danco Harbor. And they say, just go up that mountain to see the penguins. So I take my first step, and in a coat and rubber pants and boots over 3 more layers. And my second step, I sink 3 feet into the snow. I'd work to get out of this 3-foot hole I made, take 2 steps, and then I'd sink 3 feet again. After digging myself out 40 times and after only 20 feet, I said, no, that's it. I'm stopping. I'm not fighting this mountain to see these penguins. So instead I waddled over toward the shore to see the southern ocean. And I sat there and waited for the penguins to actually come to me. And they did. And I sat there for hours photographing one Gentoo penguin after another, diving in. Okay, this is great, but I can't take it anymore. I waited long enough. It's my turn. So they finally relented and they docked so that I could get ready for doing something I never wanted to do when I lived at my home up north. But this was different, kind of like camping here, which was so miserable. But it was something I had to do. So, because the water was cold and it could be too cold and it could shock my system, I strapped a harness on and then I waited. When it was finally my turn, one of the crewmates for the photo acted like they were pushing me in. They didn't, of course. And when I finally got into that frigid cold water, all I could think was that, surprisingly, it didn't seem cold at all. But I knew that's my body tricking my mind when I submerged myself into something as ludicrous as this. So I opened my eyes to the salt water and looked up to move to the light again. I always thought the polar plunge was so senseless and way over the top. But when I'm at the end of the earth, I'll gladly wait to do something that insane. That was the only thing that I could think to do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you like that. I see it's approaching 7:15, which when I was at the Cafe Gallery at Gallery Cabaret, there would be people filtering in, and I'd say, okay, you're getting your names on your list, you're starting your open mic now. Or like I would do at the cafe, I would start by reading things from magazines like I did just right now, just to be able to start off the show. I hope everybody, as I said, had a great Christmas, a great New Year's, and if you are looking for reading materials, CC&D and Down in the Dirt are out every month. Dun, 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 dun. And I hope that everyone is staying safe. I hope that everyone is staying creatively inclined. And if anybody out there feels like they're alone, just know that you aren't, even if you feel it, and that you are loved, and we're all going to get through this. And so I want all of you to hang in there and continue being as wonderful as you've always been. And I will talk to you guys all very, very soon. Thank you.